going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the Dayton Triangles franchise here on Madden 25, featuring 31 other team builder squads in order to create a revamped spring league in the UFL. Hopefully you guys are excited for this one, man, as we come to a point of the year where we actually made it to the UFL championship game. And what I want to do in this episode specifically is I want to have a deep dive preview of what to expect in that UFL championship game. And on top of that as well, what I also want to go ahead and do is take a look at some of the top players in the UFL that are going to get opportunities to play in the NFL. So very excited for today's episode, man, and I hope you guys are as well. If you are, make sure you go ahead and do a couple of things for me. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into it, starting with some players that are getting some upgrades leading into the UFL championship game. Let's go ahead and check who's going to get those upgrades. Alright, so we have a few players on our team that are going to get upgrades, and it starts with Jonathan McGriff, who has really been playing well here in the playoffs, and we're hoping that continues here in the UFL championship game. With all the morale boosts and the temporary bonuses, he's actually sitting as an 86 overall right now. But at this point, I just want to make sure that we are as effective with the scheme as humanly possible. So we're going to work on the elusive back. And he actually does improve to an 87 overall after that upgrade. Getting that +2 in change of direction is extremely nice. As for other players on our team that are getting upgrades is Niles Cotton, the free agent acquisition for a couple years ago. And, you know, he's just a nice all-around player. You know, kind of that jack of all trades in our secondary. Doesn't really excel in one specific thing, but really no weaknesses in his game. And he's sitting as an 80 overall with the morale and temporary boost. We're going to work on his run support here, and he actually stays as an 80 overall. However, he does get a +2 to man and play recognition as well. Then the last person on our team that's getting upgrades is Mitch Woodson. Now, Mitch Woodson, the rookie out of Oklahoma State, he's been playing well, you know, with Leon Thomas and then DeAndre Bossier like being hurt as of late. You know, we needed a Mitch Woodson to step up, and we're very happy to see that Mitch Woodson was able to in fact step up and play some extremely good football for us. So very happy to have him on the football team for sure. We're going to work on his playmaking like this time around, and he actually does become a scheme fit, already sitting at 75 overall. He's getting multiple pluses in the ball carrier vision, catching, and that deep route as well, which we absolutely love to see, especially as a rookie. But first, while it is a time for us to get ready for a championship game, this is also the time in the season, at least in this series, when we do end up seeing players go to the NFL if they were signed by an NFL team. And for the Dayton Triangles, because we've had such an excellent season, we have very good players on our roster, we actually do get hit pretty hard, which could affect us significantly for this championship game that we have coming up in the next episode. For example, we are going to be losing our starting quarterback to the Houston Texans, as Andrew Collar does end up getting picked up by this Houston Texans squad. The 25-year-old is going to be the third quarterback on this roster, backing up CJ Stroud, but Andrew Collar does end up coming back into the league. But not only that, but we do end up losing a couple of our key players on the defensive side of the ball as well going into the UFL championship game. Peter Townsend, for example, he is going to end up being signed by the Carolina Panthers. Actually pretty solid overall here. He's a 75 overall. Even though he is pretty much at his prime at this point, I don't expect him to get a lot better. But Peter Townsend coming in with a solid overall. He's going to be the number 5 corner here for this Carolina Panthers football team, as he could get some occasional playing time on special teams. And then ironically, his teammate Matt Weaver, well, he also ends up signing for the Carolina Panthers. Although he actually does not make the active roster, he is still going to be a member of the practice squad. So we're going to lose out on 3 separate players for our team for the UFL championship game. However, as for Max Singleton for the Philadelphia Stars, the only player that is going to the UFL for the Philadelphia Stars is Max Singleton. Now, Singleton is a guy that actually carries the highest overall in the UFL, but his game doesn't fully translate to the NFL. He goes from like a 97 overall to like a 66 by NFL standards, so his game doesn't translate that well. But with that being said, very excited for the opportunity for Max Singleton, and this is also going to provide an interesting dynamic as well. We do not have to necessarily worry about that running game in the UFL championship, so we can at least prepare in a one-dimensional kind of sense. We're also going to be one-dimensional ourselves, I would imagine. Other players that are not partaking in the UFL championship game that are going to be signed by an NFL team do include Johnny Boyce of the St. Louis Battlehawks. He is going to be on the practice squad for the Arizona Cardinals. You also have Otis Casey, who was the main star player of the not the Los Angeles Chargers, but the Minnesota Blizzard. He is actually going to end up on the practice squad for the Los Angeles Chargers as well. Percy Love, who is actually the centerpiece of the San Antonio Brahmas, who did go 16-1 in the regular season. Percy Love is going to end up being on the practice squad for the New York Giants as well. Derek Bramble of the Michigan Panthers is going to end up being on the practice squad for the New England Patriots moving forward. Daryl Forsett of the Birmingham Stallions is also going to be on the practice squad for the New York Giants. So we'll be joining Percy Love, who is going to be in here as a undrafted rookie, to say the least. And then last but not least, you have Deontay Williams, who is going to actually make the active roster for the Las Vegas Raiders. He played for the Louisville Thoroughbreds during this time. And Deontay Williams, he's only 25 years old. He's got that hidden development trait as well. While he specializes as being a slot corner, he can do a couple of other things pretty well. He's going to start as the number 6 wide receiver on this Las Vegas Raiders team. But as you can see by this depth chart, there's definitely some opportunities to be able to move up in the future. So with the numerous departures that we have for the NFL, that does mean that we have to make some adjustments in terms of our starting lineup. And for the starting lineup, I'm going to start with the defensive side of the ball because there's more happening here per se. So Ty Moody is going to become the number 1 corner in this game. Then Jared Strong, who has really been a reliable number 3 corner for us, he's going to move up to the number 2. But players to definitely keep an eye on is, you definitely want to take a look at Sheldon Ferry. Sheldon Ferry is someone that is in his 3rd year from West Virginia. He's a decent player. I think he's a solid backup for sure, but definitely is going to be tested. He's going to be playing a lot more than what he normally would play, so hopefully he's up for the challenge. He's a decent man coverage person, but does struggle with zone coverage, albeit he does have some quickness to him at 90 speed, so that could be helpful. Is a decent press guy as well, but definitely isn't a Peter Townsend. That's why he's in the NFL. Another player to possibly keep an eye on as well is Quentin Gisley. Quentin Gisley is someone who we drafted a couple of seasons ago. He's also in his 3rd year as well, and he's a decent player. This one, Quentin can kind of play zone coverage. He doesn't really excel in one specific thing, but there's no egregious weaknesses, right? It's just he's not as quick as maybe what a Peter Townsend would be. He's not the strongest tackler, and his awareness only at 65, is someone that easily can be fooled on the play action. But in terms of pure coverage, he's actually not he's not bad in coverage at all. He's actually a decent cover guy, but definitely does not have those same intangibles that Peter Townsend has for sure. Also, on the defensive side of the ball, we had to make some adjustments to our interior defensive line. Now, we know that Daryl McLeod was still going to be around, but after that, things get really hairy. And so, who's going to be making their second start of the season is actually going to be none other than Randy Dawkins. He's playing, he's doing his second career, start, over the course of his career, and very excited to see what he can do. And he played okay in the Memphis game as well. The problem is that we're playing in the biggest game of the season, and this is also somebody that doesn't have like a ton of leg room. He is incredibly strong, 90 strength. He is an incredibly strong person. However, this is not someone, unlike a Matt Weaver, does not have that ability to really get to the quarterback, albeit he does have a solid power move, and he also is a decent tackler, not a great tackler either, but Randy Dawkins will end up getting the start there for our defensive line going into this ball game. As for who's going to be backing him up, Greg Sharp, Von Red, and Nas Evans are going to be the backups listed at defensive tackle if either Daryl McLeod or Randy Dawkins do end up needing any kind of relief, whether it's because of stamina issues or whether it is because of an injury. But you can see that we are a little bit thin on the defensive line, so that could be an issue for us in this game. But arguably the biggest change that you would expect to see is that we are going to have a new starting quarterback. Now, Marvin Whitfield did make a start in the final regular season game against the Memphis Showboats and did end up winning that game as well. He actually played a pretty solid, he played a good half of football per se, but this is also someone that was a little bit more of a gunslinger than what we saw, than what we would like from Andrew Collar. Doesn't take as good care of the ball. But he did do enough to win with 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and over 200 yards passing. He also has a solid amount of mobility as well from Marvin Whitfield. So, for example, this is someone that does carry 86 speed, 93 acceleration. This is a quick quarterback, a little bit quicker than Andrew Collar, but at the same time, not the same level of accuracy, especially with the deep ball. This is someone that struggles with that consistency with having that deep ball at any given time. But in terms of hitting those medium and short throws, he should be fine in that regard. He also has a pretty strong arm with 93 throw power, so that is also at his disposal as well. But now we take a look at the roster that is constructed for the Philadelphia Stars, as the Philadelphia Stars do have a few players that could get some consideration to going to the NFL next season. One of those guys is Titus Way. He is a fifth-year player out of Notre Dame. He does have the max security ability. He also has the superstar X factor as well. Many actually was a little bit surprised within the UFL community that he actually is not going to the NFL this year. Just didn't have enough NFL interest. Maybe he's waiting for just the right opportunity per se. But for Titus Way, he's someone that could cause tremendous problems for us. Extremely quick with 87 speed. It's going to create a lot of stress for our linebackers. So really need JJ Peters and Cameron Spencer to really lock in. He also is an elite pass catcher as well. 91 catching, very good route runner, and he's actually a decent deep route person too. So this is someone that could run the occasional post for you. Not to mention, he can block in the passing game and is a half-decent run blocker as well. Just really is a complete tight end for the Philadelphia Stars. He's the top target. But that is not even the only target that Greg Sanders has to his disposal, as he also has the opportunity to throw to Charles Percy. He's a 6-year player out of the University of Texas and really entering the prime of his career. So he's running out of time in order to get to the NFL. But at the same time, though, Charles Percy, very good football player as he comes in. He's just a burner. He is an absolute burner with 96 speed, 95 excel, and then not to mention the 96 agility as well. This is someone who absolutely can take the top off of a defense if Greg Sanders does have enough time to throw the ball, not to mention can catch in traffic. Really one thing that could be a slight knock on his game that's stopping him from getting to the NFL right now is that short route running. He's an okay short route runner, but nothing to report home about. Other than that, he doesn't have any weaknesses in his game either. He has an extremely quick change of direction as well. So if we were for the thing for Charles Percy is we got to make sure that we rally to the ball and make those tackles and don't let him in open space, because if he gets into open space, it could absolutely be barbecue chicken if we are not careful. Also look for him to maybe get some opportunities in the kick return game as well as for punt returns. He does have an 80 rating for that kick return, and also a pretty good juke and spin move as well, among other things. Last notable player that I want to talk about before breaking it down by position is their center, Nick Temple. He is a veteran from the University of Oregon in his 12th year in the UFL. One of the better centers in this league, as Nick Temple knows how to direct the offensive line protections at any given time. Mostly known for his power, but he does have some pretty good technical abilities as well, just in terms of pure run and pass blocking. I mean, he has 93 run block power and then 92 pass blocking power as well, accompanied with that 85 strength. He is extremely tough, man. He is an absolutely tough cookie to crack. Plus, he's an extremely smart football player as well, with that 89 awareness, and also really good injury, so he takes very good care of his body, even at the advanced age of 33 years old. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the Philadelphia Stars roster going into this UFL championship game. So Gregory Sanders is going to be your starting quarterback, but they do also have the 6-year quarterback Gabriel Sellers as the backup. At running back, there is going to be a change at running back. Max Singleton is going to go to the UFL, so we do only have 2 running backs on the roster for this game. Enrique Stephenson, who is a rookie out of Stanford, he will get the start. Very raw football player, but what I will say, extremely quick. The Philadelphia Stars are very high on this young man right here, and so this will be a great opportunity to see what Enrique Stephenson can do, especially if he gets in the open field. Look for him to run some outside runs. They do also have a little bit more of a power back in the 2nd-year running back out of Oklahoma State in Matthew Bankston, who will serve as the primary backup in this matchup in the UFL championship. For the wide receivers, we did talk about Charles Percy already, but they do have a couple of other good receivers on this team. Killian Billups, the 4th-year player out of Penn State, and Jamal McClellan, the 5th-year player out of North Texas, do bring a different kind of skill set compared to what Charles Percy comes to the table. Neither of these guys are necessarily burners, but they are very technical in their route running abilities, so they could do some work, especially in the slot, on those key 3rd down conversions. They do also have Jimmy Burks, who's a 2nd-year player out of West Virginia. Young guy to keep an eye out for. He's got good speed. And not to mention, they do also have Zach Brown and Oscar Terry. At starting tight end, Titus Way is obviously going to start for this Philadelphia Stars team. However, Dexter Beckford is going to be the backup here. Good backup. He's going to be a future starter someday. Probably could start in a couple of seasons should Titus Way depart for the NFL. Very good project for next year, but this season I don't expect him to make too terribly much of an impact, although he does have some good physical traits. They do also have Aaron DeCalvo on the roster as an emergency 3rd tight end. Meanwhile, taking a look at this offensive line, they got some dudes up front for sure. Chris Jennings is going to start at left tackle, and he is going to be protecting the blind side of Gregory Sanders. At left guard, they have Del Walton, who is, getting into the prime of his career, but while he does not have aspirations to get to the NFL any longer, he is still a good football player. He's going to be able to try to hold things down on the offensive line. We already talked about the center, Nick Temple, but they do also have Darren Stain as a backup should Nick Temple get hurt at any point. And Darren Stein, good enough to start in this league, so you definitely love to have him as a backup. At the right guard position, on the right side, things aren't looking as good here. Matt Clancy might be the weak link here, as he's only a 74 overall, but with that being said, is pretty tough. 88 strength, 73 awareness, so we understand what he needs to do. It's just that he really needs to work on his technical skills. The finesse moves could be a problem at right guard. However, Randy Dawkins is going to be lined up at right tackle. So maybe if we switch Randy Dawkins and Daryl McLeod, we could have a mismatch there. Finally, at right tackle, we do have Eric Fowler, who is the veteran out of USC. The 10th-year player, also not necessarily having those aspirations to go to the NFL. But with that being said, very good football player. Although someone to watch out for in the future is Tyler Carmichael, the second-year player out of Florida State. Extremely good backup, and they're very excited about him in the future. Will eventually start for this Philadelphia offensive line. Now, going over to the defensive side of the ball, as we take a look at what this Philadelphia Stars team have. They do have Chris Ware available. He is a 6-year player out of Auburn, as Chris Ware is looking to go to work on our offensive line. Doesn't have the greatest speed in the world, but does have some incredibly good bend, and he's pretty tough as well. Look for him to maybe try to collapse the pocket. Meanwhile, on the other side is Denzel Duncan. He's no slouch as well. A 26-year-old out of the University of Vanderbilt. However, does not have the same physical traits as well. But what he can do is he has an extremely dangerous power move and can help collapse that pocket as well. As for the defensive tackles, really, they don't only have 3 defensive tackles on the roster, so I expect them to run a lot of maybe like free 4s or like free sets here possibly. Dion Presley is their main defensive tackle, is a 7th-year player out of Maryland, and has decent speed. He's going to be looking to try and stop as much of those double teams as possible. It's going to carry a lot of that attention from our interior. They do also have Connor Goodwell, who could be a starter someday, but I don't expect him to have a huge impact if an Isaiah Pierce is available in a pinch. For the linebacking core, Jamar Sweat is going to be starting at left outside linebacker for the Philadelphia Stars, as the 3rd-year player out of Stanford will have the start. Keep an eye out for Matt Woody, though, in the future. He's not technically sound, but he does carry 86 speed, so once he understands how to play the position, Matt Woody can be a problem in this league. But for right now, I don't expect them to see the field all that much, and if we do, maybe that's someone we can exploit in the passing game. As for middle linebacker, we do have the 3rd-year linebacker out of the University of Kansas in Mike Mahome, and he's going to be in charge of this defense. Incredibly young linebacker who knows what's going on. They do also have Dorian Marsh and Brandon Clement as well. But Mike Mahome, one of the better young linebackers in the UFL. And then finally at right outside linebacker, 2 really quality guys here. I don't know who's going to get the start. Either we'll see Justin Ellsworth. He's a 6-year player out of Charleston Southern. But my favorite in terms of who we think we're going to see is the 2nd-year linebacker out of Ohio State in Taryn Griffin. He just has more upside with that 85 speed, even though he doesn't have as much of an understanding of the playbook. I would expect to see Taryn Griffin getting the majority of the snaps at right outside linebacker. Now, for your corners, the corners are a little bit on the older side, but with that being said, they do have some solid veterans. Dante Gillespie is the ¡1 corner for the Philadelphia Stars. He's a 12-year man out of Clemson. Still has some speed on him, still got some burn, and he's a smart football player, man. So Dante Gillespie could be an interesting matchup between him and Leon Thomas. They do also have Alan Spires as well. In spite of being 31 years old, still has plenty of athleticism as well with that 92 speed. Be interesting to see how long he holds on to that. But then after that, there is a little bit of a drop-off. Could see a mix of Chris Langford, Armand Baxter, Alex Staley, solid players. Oh, and then you do have Gregory Curtis as well. Again, solid players, but for the most part, aside from maybe Chris Langford, definitely an unproven group. But they do have two very good veteran corners. At free safety, they do have a rookie out of Alabama in KC Barber, who's going to be controlling things from the backside. They do have Jose Avant, the fifth-year player out of Wake Forest, as well available. Philadelphia, very high on KC Barber. He's got a bright future, very good coverage person already, and as he gains more experience playing more reps at the UFL level, he's only going to get better as he continues to age. Definitely someone that has an NFL future potentially from the UFL route. And then rounding out your starting lineup for the Philadelphia Stars is Montrell McGann, the strong safety out of the University of Akron, playing for them Zips. Definitely in the prime of his career right now. A little bit on the slower side for a safety at that 83 speed. So I would expect to see him maybe play a little bit more in the box to kind of provide run support. Because if we can get him exposed in pass coverage, especially against our receivers, that could definitely create some mismatches for sure. They do also have Jimmy Applewhite, the second-year player out of USC. And for Jimmy Applewhite, he's just not ready to play yet. A decent backup, but someone that probably shouldn't be seeing the field, especially with a game that's as important as the UFL championship game. Alright boys, so let's go ahead and jump into one of the bigger press conferences that we have going into Super Bowl weekend, and just really excited about the opportunity to play for a UFL championship. And it feels a little different considering, you know, we have a couple weeks to prepare for this particular game, and really just the reporters, this Gem City media, you know, wanted to come in and talk about how we were preparing, and really specifically about left guard Anton Mills and what he has been focusing on this week leading up to the Super Bowl. Because as you guys may know, the foundation of my offense is the offensive line. If we can't run the ball, what are we even doing here? It was going to be barbecue chicken, so we're going to focus on run blocking here for this week. But another thing that happened as a result of us advancing through the Super Bowl week, is that we do get some more upgrades that we do get to play with. So real quick, I will get an upgrade for Greg Sharp, and we're going to put it on speed rusher. He does improve to an 81 overall at this point. He does get pluses to the finesse and power moves alongside block shedding, which we're pretty happy about. He's developing extremely well. DeAndre Bossier is another person that we are very happy about. He is going to be back. He is not injured. He was injured for the entirety of the playoffs, so we will have our number 2 wide receiver back in the lineup, and we could not be more happy to see him. We're going to work on his playmaking here as he jumps up to a 79 overall after the upgrade. A +5 to deep route with that +2 to spec catch as well. He's going to be really important to have in terms of just having a quality number 2 receiver aside from Leon Thomas. That's going to help our young quarterback really excel. Then the last person that we have that's getting an upgrade is Richard Gaffney. Now, he is a veteran backup, but he is a 31 years old, someone that we brought in like a couple years ago just to have some mentors like on the offensive line when we wanted to really upgrade that. He gets a +2 to pass block finesse here. I don't expect him to play a ton, but if he needs to step in because one of the guards did get hurt, we are pretty comfortable with Richard Gaffney being in that interior of the offensive line and handling business pretty well. So one last thing that I wanted to go ahead and take a look at here is I want to see the breakdown in terms of, you know, who has the advantages in certain spots right now. I do think that we are a little bit more of a complete team, but with that being said, what I will say is that we are And what could really hurt us is if we cannot get that running game going. That could really hurt us, even though they're not the best rushing defense in the world. They're an average rushing defense, allowing 83 yards of rushing per game. That's 17th in the UFL. They are actually far more vulnerable in the passing game, allowing almost 250 yards passing a game. Is led to the 26th ranked defense in the league. However, what I will also say is that Baltimore does have one of the more explosive offenses in the league. They are number 2, averaging over 28 points a game. But with that being said, we do carry the number 1 defense in the league, averaging less than 17 points allowed per game. And we're just excited for that particular matchup. The number 2 offense going up against the number 1 defense in the UFL in the championship game. And one of these two things is simply gonna have to give. But with that being said, guys, that is going to go ahead and wrap things up. And I hope you enjoyed this episode here, man. If you did, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do have to be brand spanking new to the channel. I will catch you guys in the next episode as we will play in the UFL championship game. 2 teams get to participate, but only 1 team gets to ultimately wear the crown. I'm very excited for the opportunity to try to be that 1 team. So I'll see you guys in the next episode, and I hope you guys all take it easy. Take care, everybody.